So this is my third attempt to start this video. I get a few seconds in each time. This time it's going to work. I want to talk about the wilderness, which is a place we go to often under major transits, particularly from Pluto or Neptune, because we have the, if you like, the demolition. That's the first part of the change. The old has to go in order to make space for the new. And between the old and the new, there's a place which is the wilderness. It's Pluto's underworld. It's even Neptune's underworld, which is that watery place that you find in Shakespeare's Tempest. Those are pearls that were his eyes. 6 feet down, thy father lies. That comes first, yeah. But, this body gradually gets transformed into pearls and precious stones and all the rest of it. That's the Neptunian process of transformation, because we know well the Pluto one, don't we? We have the myth of Persephone and all the rest of it. But there is this place of the wilderness. And that's very difficult for us as human beings, because there's no certainty. There's no clear points of reference anymore. Our life doesn't work. And we thrash around, either trying to make the old work, or we try and form a plan for the future to make that work. And that doesn't work either. And this is where you need an astrologer who just says, do nothing. Yeah. Live with that unknowingness, live with that mystery, live with that uncertainty. It's very good for us as human beings to do that, because when we can do that, we're open to what the spirit wants of us. We're fully open. We're not getting in the way with our plans for the future or our old habits from the past, because they've been demolished. And there's a biblical reference to the wilderness. That's what sort of prompted this piece, is that the Jews are slaves in Egypt, and eventually they leave. By the way, this is myth. There seems to be no historical record of the Jews having been a slave race in Egypt. So God knows why any race would want that as a myth, but there you go. That's what they've got. And they escape, and they're promised the promised land by God. But he keeps them in the wilderness for 40 years. And the reason he keeps them in the wilderness for 40 years is because they don't have proper faith in him. So that's interesting. What does it tell us? Well, it tells us two things. One, when you leave the old behind, you need time in the wilderness, which is what I was just talking about, before you're ready for the new. You need to realign. Yeah, you need to cook. You need to mulch. And what is the nature of that realignment? It's faith. Now, faith, well, we've got a funny relationship with faith, haven't we? We don't like it anymore. It speaks of blind faith. It speaks of crucifixes and God telling us what to do and all the rest of it, which you do get in the Old Testament. I was trying to read the Old Testament. I've got a book of stories from it. It was good. But in the end, I just couldn't take God anymore. He's just so bloody authoritarian. And yeah, you can always find some sort of deeper meaning in it. You can probably find a deeper meaning in any story if you try hard enough. But I couldn't take it anymore. It's not my cup of tea. I did give it a good go. And it is good to know some of the stories, because they are fundamental to our culture. Love them or hate them. And they do still speak to us. Anyway, it was faith. Now, the two sort of systems I like, or I'm drawn to, are astrology and shamanism, and particularly the system within shamanism because shamanism isn't a system. It's a connection with the spirit in nature. That's where it begins and ends. That's all you need. But it does have the medicine wheel, and that's what I love. I've written a whole book on the medicine wheel. And the medicine wheel is a circle, like the astrological chart is a circle. And at the middle of the wheel, you find that point of alignment, that point of balance. And that's the same with the astrological chart. So in the middle of the medicine wheel, that's the point of faith, because that's the point of your connection to spirit. And when your connection to the spirit is out of sorts, that's where you look at the wheel, the four directions, which are like four different bits of us, and the way we relate to the world. And you look at them and you find, where am I out of balance, so that I can come back to alignment. And so that's another way of putting what God was saying about keeping them in the wilderness until they had the proper faith. Faith is your alignment with spirit. It's a knowing of spirit. It's a knowing of our connection to everything. Faith is a kind of knowing. It's not a hanging on in there blindly in the hope that. No, it is an actual knowing. This is the nature of Buddhist faith as well. And so I think that is also what we have at the centre of the astrology wheel. Because around the wheel, you have all these different Greek and Roman gods, and one or two Eskimo ones as well now, don't we? We have Sedna, and we're supposed to say Inuit, aren't we? Anyway, Eskimo. Yeah, so we have other ones, but it is primarily Greek and Roman. And at the centre, what do we find there? We find the chaos, because at the centre of Greek mythology is the chaos, out of which everything arose, this deep, unknowable mystery. Yeah, that's what chaos is. It's not the opposite of order. It's not order, but it's not disorder either. It's this primordial, fecund place out of which everything arises. Yeah. So at the centre of the wheel is our connection to that, our connection to everything, to the spirit within the whole universe. In other words, it's faith. In this case, it's faith in all those gods, in Mars and in Venus. They all whisper to us. And when we're in that wilderness place that the Pluto or the Neptune transit takes us into, it's about finding a new relationship with those gods. Yeah, which gods do I need to listen to in a new way? If you've got a Pluto-Venus transit, well, you might find you're in the wilderness when it comes to relationships for a while, because you need a new relationship with Venus. And you're maybe not ready to have that new relationship with Venus. Yeah, you maybe need to cook for a year or two. You have your wilderness years. But that is where you need to listen. Instead of thrashing around trying to make it happen, listen to Venus. Listen to what she has to say. It's more important to her that she gets you aligned than that you have a successful date somewhere or whatever. It's more important you become aligned. So that's my thought. At the centre of the astrological chart is the chaos, the primordial chaos of Greek mythology, out of which all the gods eventually arose. And that's where we need to live. And the wheel shows us how to live in that place, in our way, because we each have a particular chart. What balance is for one person isn't what balance is for another. And balance isn't it's not a literal concept. It's more about paying appropriate heed to the callings of each of the gods in your chart. And when you have one of these transits, it's time to listen to one of those gods in a new way. And then eventually you'll come back to a truer and a deeper connection with that central spirit, which is also faith in your life. So there you go. There's the wilderness and its meaning. I mean, the wilderness, it's a great place, isn't it, when you think about it? It's like it's out in nature where all the usual reference points are no longer there. I mean, I go out in the wilderness literally regularly, well, as near as you can get to it in England. I live on Dartmoor, and my favourite place to be is up on the high moor, remote, these vast views where there's no one else around. There's silence. There's only the noises of nature, the wind, maybe the odd bird, and that's it. And it just feeds me, and it sorts everything out. Yeah? If I go there, it's like, I'm this, I'm that, and the other. Things sort of clarify. They sort. So the wilderness, it sorts us if we can stay in it. But if we fight against the wilderness, it can't do its job properly. And so this is the message for those Pluto and Neptune transits that we go through. And it might last several years. It might last quite a while in certain aspects of your life. And we need to be sensitive to that and not try and make it work. Because when something's right, it will often happen very easily and very quickly. But we need to put in the work first. And in that wilderness, it's not just, oh God, how long have I got to put up with? It's like, when will this transit be over? And you're kind of missing the point if you think like that, because you've been given an opportunity. It's a precious opportunity to step outside that area of your life, or in fact, step outside your whole life and just live closely to the spirit and let it do its own alchemy in its Plutonian way, or in its Neptunian way, whatever way it happens to be.